Now, it's been one of the most anticipated comebacks in pop. After 40 years, ABBA are finally back with a new studio album.
I've heard there's going to be a sequel to Mamma Mia.
Yes.
Yes. It's called Here We Go Again, which is brilliant.
Yes.
Tell me everything you know.
Well, it's more of a prequel, really, because it's about everything that happened before they ended up on Color TV.
For decades, fans of ABBA have wondered about the real story behind one of pop music's most beloved couples, Benny Andersson and Anni-Frid Lyngstad. They were seen on stage as a perfect pairing, two incredibly gifted musicians who were not only bandmates, but also soulmates in the eyes of the public. Yet, beneath the polished performances and shimmering outfits, there was a reality far more complicated than most fans ever imagined. The rumors were there almost from the start. Hushed whispers of creative tension, mounting fame, and a growing emotional distance that seemed to threaten their seemingly unbreakable bond. And for a long time, much of it remained pure speculation. The world saw the smiles and the harmony of their music, but never fully recognized the pain and pressure building up behind closed doors. The story truly begins in 1969, before ABBA was even a known concept. Benny Andersson had already tasted fame with his band, the Hep Stars, often referred to as Sweden's answer to the Beatles. He was a musical prodigy of sorts, a man whose head was constantly buzzing with melodies and arrangements. Anni-Frid, better known as Frida, was carving out her own niche in the Swedish music scene with her distinctively rich vocals and magnetic stage presence. When the two met at a music festival, there was an immediate and undeniable spark. They connected over their mutual love for music, their hopes for the future, and a sense that together, they could create something truly magical. Not long after, Bjorn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Fältskog joined forces with Benny and Frida, giving birth to what the world would come to know as ABBA. From the onset, they seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to create hit songs. Europe was the first to fall under their spell, and then the entire globe followed suit. Benny and Frida found their relationship blossoming alongside ABBA's meteoric rise. They were not only romantically involved, but deeply entrenched in the creative process that defined the band's sound. Benny's perfectionism in composing and producing music met Frida's emotive and spontaneous performance style, and in those early years, it felt like a match made in heaven. The media saw them as living proof that love and music could merge seamlessly into perfect harmony. But as the 1970s progressed and ABBA's fame soared, the cracks in that harmonious image began to appear. The demands of worldwide tours, endless interviews, and the pressure to produce chart-topping hits started to weigh heavily on all four members of the band. Benny and Frida, despite their deep attachment to each other, began to feel those burdens in different ways. Benny was constantly in the studio, obsessing over details, fixating on the structure of a chorus or the nuance of a chord progression. His genius seemed inseparable from his tireless work ethic, and that relentless pursuit of perfection left Frida feeling sidelined. She preferred a freer, more visceral approach to performance, letting emotion guide her interpretations. In the beginning, these differences had acted as complementary strengths. Her spontaneity balanced his meticulous nature. Over time, they instead became sources of friction and misunderstanding. Their personal lives became even more challenging because of the intense public scrutiny. While on stage, Benny and Frida presented a united front, smiling and singing in unison. Behind the scenes, it was a different story. Friends noticed that arguments grew more frequent. Tiny disagreements in the studio would escalate, fueled by exhaustion and stress. The vibrant chemistry that had once characterized their bond seemed dulled by the rigors of constant public attention. For Frida, the social aspects of fame parties, public engagements, red carpet events offered a form of release from the pressure. Benny, however, often preferred solitude when he wasn't performing or recording, finding comfort in private gatherings rather than large social scenes. The disparity in how they each dealt with fame turned into yet another wedge between them. By the late 1970s, rumors began circulating that Benny was drifting away emotionally. Some claimed it was simply the result of endless studio sessions. Others pointed out that there might be someone else in his life. These whispers intensified around 1979 when insiders observed a new closeness between Benny and Mona Norklit, a television producer he'd met during an ABBA TV special. As is often the case in high-profile relationships, Speculation flared up in tabloids, and fans struggled to piece together the truth. Yet, publicly, the couple tried to maintain an image of normalcy for as long as they could. In early 1981, the dam finally broke. Benny came home one day and confessed that he had feelings for Mona, effectively confirming what many had begun to suspect. The shock was overwhelming for Frida. This wasn't just a marital betrayal, it felt like a betrayal of everything they had built together, from the earliest days of their love affair to the foundation of ABBA itself. 9 years of partnership, of shared triumphs and tribulations, suddenly felt irreparably fractured. Frida grappled with heartbreak and a profound sense of disappointment. She later spoke in interviews about the pain of seeing the private anguish of their breakup magnified in the press. Every newspaper headline, every magazine cover seemed to turn her personal sorrow into a public spectacle. While they attempted to maintain a professional front for the sake of ABBA, it was clear that the emotional distance was too vast to ignore. Journalists who interviewed them around this time noticed a distinct tension. Benny, who had always been amiable, appeared ill at ease, his words halting. Frida, known for her poise and warmth, gave guarded answers. The magic that had once united them in the creative process was dimmed, replaced by a sense that their collaboration was now more of an obligation than a joy. In the Swedish newspaper Expressen, Benny tried to explain the breakup by citing how love can change over time, that he and Frida still cared for one another on some level. But the strain in his voice and the tremor in his hands betrayed a deeper, more painful truth. For fans, the separation of Benny and Frida was shocking, but even more devastating was the realization that ABBA as a band could be heading toward dissolution. Bjorn and Agnetha had already divorced in 1979, and while ABBA continued making music afterward, the erosion of both couples signaled an inevitable shift in the group's dynamics. Some of the band's later songs, such as The Winner Takes It All, took on a more poignant resonance, reflecting the real heartbreak behind the glossy pop veneer. The once upbeat atmosphere surrounding ABBA's music videos and interviews gave way to a sense of quiet resignation. By 1982, the band went on an indefinite hiatus, effectively closing a remarkable chapter in pop music history. Yet, this was not the end of Frida's story. The woman who had faced so much heartbreak and upheaval was no stranger to adversity. Born in 1945 to a Norwegian mother and a German soldier, Frida was labeled a war child in post-Unke, World War II Europe. She faced stigma early in her life, moving to Sweden with her mother in search of a better future. Music became her refuge, and she harnessed her talent and determination to achieve success first in Sweden, then across the globe as part of ABBA. After her marriage with Benny ended, it might have seemed that she would slip away from public life entirely. Surprisingly, in 1992, Frida entered a world more restrictive and traditional than even the tightest constraints of pop stardom, European royalty. She married Prince Heinrich Rousseau-Royce of Plauen, acquiring a royal title and settling into a castle in Switzerland overlooking Lake Geneva. The press lit up with stories of her new life, describing it like a fairy tale, a pop star turned real-life princess. However, behind the glittering facade of royal halls and formal gatherings, Frida encountered rigid protocols and ancient traditions that left her feeling even more confined than she had as a member of ABBA. She was expected to attend official functions, adhere to centuries-old etiquette, and live according to aristocratic customs that felt foreign to her free-spirited nature. Tragedy struck Frida once more in 1998, when her daughter, Anne Lieselotte, died in a car accident at the age of 30. The loss was shattering, plunging Frida into a depth of grief that eclipsed any of her earlier hardships. She withdrew from public life, finding solace in the privacy of her Swiss home and the few confidants who truly understood her pain. One unlikely source of comfort, according to various accounts, was Benny himself. Despite their fraught history, the bond formed by decades of shared musical creation was something that neither could fully sever. He reached out, offering empathy and understanding in a way that only another person who had lived life in the glaring spotlight of ABBA could. These quiet moments of reconnection, though far from romantic, provided some measure of healing amid her overwhelming sorrow. Meanwhile, the world never forgot ABBA. Despite having parted ways in 1982, their music retained an enduring appeal that spanned across generations. Their discography continued to sell millions of copies, and musicals like Mamma Mia ignited new waves of fans who discovered ABBA's hits with fresh enthusiasm. Then, in 2021, something extraordinary happened. After nearly 4 decades, ABBA released a new album, Voyage. It was an unprecedented event, one that nobody believed would happen. Critics and fans alike were both thrilled and emotional to hear the classic ABBA sound infused with new material. The band members, older and wiser, came together to produce something that felt both nostalgic and modern, a testament to ABBA's enduring legacy. As if that weren't enough, ABBA introduced a groundbreaking concert residency in London, also called ABBA Voyage. Instead of stepping onto the stage in person, the group members utilized cutting-edge technology and motion capture to create digital avatars affectionately referred to as avatars. These holographic-like performances showed Benny, Frida, Agnetha, and Bjorn as their younger selves, backed by a live band playing alongside them. The sheer ambition of this project was astounding, involving years of research and hundreds of millions of dollars to achieve. Fans from over 140 countries traveled to experience a show that blended nostalgia, innovation, and an emotional celebration of ABBA's iconic catalog. Perhaps the most striking aspect of this development was that it happened in spite of all the heartbreak and personal struggles the band members had endured. Benny and Frida, whose story once ended in tears, now collaborated as creative partners on a project that sought to unite fans across the world. While the romantic love they once shared could not be rekindled, there was a deep mutual respect and understanding shaped by years of shared highs and lows. The extraordinary success of ABBA Voyage demonstrated that fans were still captivated by the band's timeless melodies. The storyline of heartbreak and reconciliation formed another layer to ABBA's appeal, humanizing them as more than just glamorous pop stars from the 1970s. And so we arrive at the heart of the matter: Benny Andersson's final confirmation about why his relationship with Frida collapsed. Over time, he has been candid about how fame, perfectionism, and diverging personal paths played significant roles. He has not shied away from acknowledging the ways in which he might have contributed to their marriage's downfall. In interviews, Benny has pointed out that sometimes love changes shape, and one can find oneself gravitating towards someone else without entirely understanding why. This honest admission doesn't erase the pain that both he and Frida endured, but it offers a perspective on how even legendary couples are subject to the same vulnerabilities and life changes as ordinary people. Frida, for her part, has also moved forward with a sense of dignity and resilience. She found her own paths to healing, first in royalty, then later in the solitude that followed her daughter's untimely passing. Her continued participation in ABBA-related events in recent years has shown a willingness to embrace the legacy she helped build, albeit on her own terms. Despite the sorrow and setbacks, she still holds on to the music, the memories, and the fundamental connection to Benny and the other band members that will always remain part of who she is. In the end, the awful truth that Benny Andersson confirms isn't some sensational scandal about a secret affair or a clandestine wrongdoing. It's simpler and in many ways more heartbreaking than that. It's the admission that fame can intensify the complexities of any relationship, that personal evolution can lead two people down separate roads, and that sometimes even the greatest collaborative synergy can't guarantee a lifelong union. Hearts can change, affections can shift, and people can drift apart for reasons that aren't easily pinned on a single villain or event. Yet, from this painful chapter emerges an enduring legacy. ABBA's music continues to unite listeners across cultures and generations, bridging the gap between the 1970s disco era and today's streaming age. Benny and Frida's story serves as a cautionary reminder that even the most dazzling success does not shield anyone from the fragility of human relationships. Their journey from onstage sweethearts to ex-partners and eventually to creative collaborators reflects a profound resilience that resonates well beyond their music. So, as you reflect on ABBA's discography, from the early cheerful hits to the later, more introspective songs, you may hear the echo of Benny and Frida's personal saga intertwined with each note. The heartbreak, the reconciliation, the growth, these elements make their music all the more authentic and timeless. While we may never know every private detail of what drove them apart, we do know that they found a way to navigate the stormy aftermath with grace, allowing the world to continue basking in the legacy they created. And now, perhaps, the final question belongs to us. How do we reconcile the fairy tale image of a couple that seemed destined for a perfect life with the reality of broken hearts and complicated choices? It might be that their experiences remind us that real love stories are rarely as flawless as the images we see on stage. They are built and broken by the same forces that shape all human connections: ambition, temptation, misunderstanding, and the unwavering passage of time. For fans, the revelation of Benny and Frida's struggles can feel like a bittersweet reminder that even our idols are, after all, only human. That humanity is what makes their music resonate so deeply. The honesty underpinning songs like The Winner Takes It All or When All Is Said and Done reveals that ABBA was never just about catchy pop tunes. It was also about storytelling, delivering raw, human emotion in a format that made us dance, sing along, and occasionally shed a tear. Benny Andersson finally confirmed what many had long suspected. The romance that once fueled part of ABBA's creative energy was fragile, tested by life's pressures, and ultimately could not withstand the demands placed upon it. But in its wake, they left something far more meaningful than a fairy tale ending: a catalog of music that continues to bring joy, heartbreak, and hope to millions around the globe. And so, we come to the close of this story, grateful for the honesty that time has revealed. As you listen to ABBA's timeless tracks or watch their futuristic Voyage avatars perform as though it were still the 1970s, keep in mind the very human story behind those soaring melodies. Within that story lies the real power of music. It transcends heartbreak, outlives scandal, and forges connections between strangers across continents and decades. For Benny Andersson and Anni-Frid Lyngstad, their legacy is more than just a list of #1 hits. It's a testament to the complexities of love and the enduring nature of art. Even when love grows complicated and hearts break, the music remains, reminding us all of our shared humanity and the universal experiences that shape who we are. So now, we ask you, was it the pressure of worldwide stardom that tore Benny and Frida apart? Or were there differences bound to surface from the start? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden chapter of ABBA's history, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep the music alive.